Okay. Just gonna wait for this to. All right. Oh, okay. I am live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is weird that it says I'm minutes in when I just started. That's really weird. Okay. Welcome, everybody. I am just going to wait a couple minutes for people to hop on because this information that I have is it's pretty potent this week. So if you're joining me live, say hi. Hi, Katie. How are you? And let me know you're here so I can talk to you and I can tune in with your energy. I mean, I'm tuning in with your energy anyway, but so again, this is an energetic transmission. The guides are usually clear with me that the messages that I am giving you through my voice are actually an energetic transmission to help you up level your frequency. Hi, Andrea. Um, so there's a little bit of an energy in the air this week. And I've been talking about it with some of my favorite people that I'm going to shout out. Andrea, Jocelyn, and Jennifer Longmore. I've talked about this with all of them. Is like there's this energy around like not not waiting, right? Like there's a sense of urgency that I feel right now around um moving forward in whatever it is that you're supposed to do, right? So like if you came here with a very strong mission and purpose, which I'm sure that you have if you're watching this video, then like now's the time to really like put the pedal to the metal, um, not really wait or question if you're supposed to do something or not. So that's the first kind of energy that I'm feeling. And it's really strong and it's almost like this energy of like excuse my language, but like, fuck it. Like, that's the energy that I'm feeling. Where it's just like, you know what? I think I'm supposed to do this thing. I'm not exactly sure why, but my intuition is telling me to do it. So I'm really not going to think about it and I'm just going to do it, even though it might scare me, even though it might stretch me a little bit. I just made a decision this morning to do something that stretches me a little bit, and but I knew intuitively that that's what I was supposed to do, so I did it. And like my muscle is pretty good with that because I've been doing that for all of 2020 and 2021. Um, and I'm like living proof that that method works, right? Like, so yeah, so that's the first energy I just wanted to mention that I'm feeling. Katie says, I'm doing beautifully, have been having many major shifts and clarity lately after a few very deep weeks. Amazing. I love it. Perfect. I think a lot of us have felt that way. Andrea and I have been joking that February was like a hot mess. I don't know if anyone else felt that way. February for me, it just felt like it was an opportunity to make a lot of deep shifts. And one of the things that I'm going to be talking about today is kind of a download that I got on the heels of February because I feel like I was called to do some deep excavation within myself, which I'm always doing, which is why I move so fast. But I have some downloads about some ways that you can start to receive more. And it's not necessarily in the way that you think. So if you were with me in the challenge, I talked about receiving and I talked about excavating first. And I talked about softening and allowing yourself to receive. And I talked about the stories that we have around receiving, how many people associate receiving with something negative, right? With something painful or with not having your needs met. So I talked about that a lot in the challenge, and that information is really important. And this information that has come through is a little bit different. Um, so this is very specific. This is a specific pattern that a lot of us have experienced in childhood that I think it's really important to address if you want to hit that next level of being able to receive more money, more clients, if you have a business, better relationships, or if you're one of those people that's looking for a partner, being able to receive at the highest level that you are desiring. So, what I'm calling this and the way that it came through to me is it's called the external validation and rejection cycle. So, I think this is a program that a lot of us can loop in, and it starts in childhood. So, here's the gist of it. So, when we're children and we have a parent who is not fully able to show up for us, right? And that's most of us. Most of us came in as these powerful healers, powerful light workers, and we had parents that were dealing with their own trauma. They did the best that they could, but most likely they weren't showing up in the way that we 100% needed them to. And on top of that, they weren't able to see us for who we really are, right? So, and this isn't always the case, but in most of what I've seen, it is true. Unless you had a parent, again, who was very enlightened or was a light worker themselves or whatever. And if you're just jumping on, let me know that you're here and say hi. I would love to say hi to you and give you a shout out and know that you're here so I can speak to your energy specifically and tune into your energy. So, so what I'm talking about is this external validation and rejection cycle. And if you want to up level your ability to receive money in your business, your ability to bring in more clients, and your ability to attract an aligned relationship, if that's something that you're wanting, or if you want to up level your current relationship, then this is something that's very important to look at. So what I was saying is, when we are children, we often have parents that aren't able to fully see us, right? So I know for me and for a lot of my clients that I see is I came in, I had these very powerful gifts, I had these psychic gifts, I was a healer, and I had parents who, yes, they were very loving, and yes, they gave me what I needed physically, but they couldn't see me, right? They couldn't see who I really was. And I know a lot of people have had this experience. And what ends up happening is that affects our sense of self-worth because we think, well, if people around me aren't able to truly hold space for me, if they're not able to see who I am, then there must be something wrong with me, right? So this is a very common thing that a lot of people feel, especially if you are a highly gifted healer, empath, somebody that has a very strong mission, which I know is many of you. So what ends up happening is that because we then make that decision that there must be something wrong with me, it then affects your self-worth, right? So then you begin to have a lower sense of self-worth, and you essentially have like a hole inside of you, right? Where that self-worth was, that you kind of have this hole where you're like, there must be something wrong with me, and then you're wanting to fill that hole, right? So that's where this external validation and rejection cycle comes in. So when we have this hole, then we're constantly looking externally to validate what we're doing so we can fill that hole, right? So what that might look like is looking for approval from other people, starting with your parents, right? Looking for approval from your parents, looking for approval from your partner, or looking for them to tell you that you're worthy instead of it coming from within. So what ends up happening is we get into this cycle of seeking external validation, and then whether we get it or don't get it, we end up feeling rejected. So because if we get it, it's still not filling that hole, because that hole can only be filled by you filling it up yourself with your own sense of self-worth. But if you And if you don't get it from other people in the way that you decided you should, you also feel rejected. So let me know if this is making sense because, oh, wait, I didn't see that I have a bunch of people commenting. Emily says, hi, Elise, loving this already. Andrea says, this is solid gold. Yeah, I mean, this is what happens. And you know, it's so funny. Just as a side note, and then I'll continue with this. Don't worry, I will get to the punchline. Andrea's word punchline is coming up a lot this week. But I had a human design reading this week. And for those of you who have not had a human design reading, like a full out human design reading, I highly recommend it. And Nadia Hicks is amazing. I can tag her. She spent about 2.5 hours with me, and like my ability to download and synthesize information, and like I always knew I had this gift, but like in my human design, it's actually like written into my human design that like I'm able to explain these things in a way that's really helpful for people to understand. So it's just interesting because I had this reading on Monday, and it like literally described these things that I like knew about myself but couldn't exactly find the words for. And now I literally want to go back and listen to the recording of my human design reading and take the statements that she said about me and literally just insert them on my website about like who I am and what I do, because it was like so precise and it was explained in ways that like I couldn't even describe. And I'm really good at explaining and describing things. So just as a side note, it was really powerful. Hi, Valeria. Hi, Laurie. Hi, Corinne. Hi, Manuela. Hi, Jennifer. Okay. So back to this external validation rejection cycle. So what ends up happening is we're looking for this external validation to fill this hole that happened when we were children because our parents couldn't see us for who we really were, which made us feel like there was something wrong with us, which made us feel like we were unworthy. Okay, just as a recap. So you have this hole, and what happens is you're constantly looking to fill this hole with other people's validation, except you never really get it, right? So think about a time when someone said something to you, and this happens to me a lot, so believe me, I'm right there with you. I'm not immune to this, but think about a time when someone said like something to you, a compliment, or tells you how great you are. Like it can be hard to absorb that, right? And that actually doesn't fill that void. It might for a minute, right? Like you might feel validated for a minute. Like I often feel this way around Andrea because Andrea's always talking about how powerful my work is. And I'm always like, oh, like I'm like trying to take it in and trying to receive it. But it can be difficult because we have this hole, and it really can't be filled by other people's validation of us. It has to come from within. So even though we seek this external validation, it's actually not feeding us, right? Because the hole has to be filled from within. So we're constantly looking for this. And then if we get it or don't get it, we end up feeling rejected. Okay. And this is a cycle. And this is like on a subtle level, right? A lot of times you won't think to yourself like, oh, I feel rejected, but you have this feeling of it, right? And you might think it out to yourself. It depends on the situation. But this is a subtle energetic pattern that we get ourselves into that can actually block you from moving forward in your business, from moving forward in your relationship, from getting to that next level, because it's like you're constantly like doggy paddling, right? Like you're constantly seeking something that is actually never going to fulfill you. So it's almost like you're just pedaling and pedaling and pedaling and you're not going anywhere. Okay. So let me know if this is making sense. So it is the cycle of seeking the external validation, then getting it or not getting it and feeling rejected either way. You feel rejected if you do get it because maybe it wasn't in the way you wanted. Maybe you couldn't receive it. Maybe, or it just didn't fill you. It just didn't help you because you already have this hole, right? Or you don't get the validation, like say for your business, you put something out there, nobody responds. You feel rejected, right? Because you're searching for that external validation and you don't get it. But ultimately, the reason why you feel rejected is not because of what's happening in that moment, is because of this deep rejection you felt as a child when your parents couldn't see you. So that's where the rejection is really comes from, but we recreate it in every situation because it's actually an opportunity to heal it. But until we realize that and we actually do the work to heal it, we're going to keep recreating it. And that literally goes for every single traumatic thing that happened to you as a child, your relationships with your parents, your relationships with your siblings, everything that happened to you as a child that was somehow in conflict with you, you will recreate in your relationships until you look at it and heal it. And that's just what happens. Sorry. Okay. So let me just go through my notes and make sure I didn't miss anything. This is another part of it that's really important. Okay. So being in this cycle of external validation, it's almost this energy of like, and I would see this a lot in my work as a school counselor, is like if you had a parent that left you, or like if a kid has a parent or a dad who like left, right, who abandoned the family or who left or who's not really around, the child would always be in this energy of like waiting for them to come back, right? So this cycle of external validation is very closely related to that energy of like you're just waiting for your parent to come back, or you're waiting for them to validate you. And we get perpetually in this cycle of like waiting for them to someday be able to see you in the way that you needed, or waiting for them to someday come back, when like that's actually never going to happen. And the only way you're going to shift it is if you see yourself and you begin to see yourself for these immense and powerful gifts that you have. That's the only way you're going to break the cycle. But we disempower ourselves by being in the cycle of the waiting for somebody to finally see me, of the waiting for somebody to finally tell me that I am doing a good job or that they actually see me. And that's never going to happen. So that's the energy of it, is it's like the kid whose parent left, that they're constantly waiting at the door for them to come back. It's never going to happen, right? And I don't mean for it to be like bleak, but that's what it is, and that's how it came through. And I think this is really powerful to understand so you can get yourself out of this. Because I recently came to understand this energetic within myself in a completely new way. Because all I'm doing is dissecting energetics all day long. This is like my full-time job, which is why I'm so good at it. Okay, because when you're constantly seeking external validation, any compliments you get don't make you feel better, because you're looking for someone else to fill a hole that can only be filled by you. So that's what I just said. This leads to constantly recreating the rejection you felt as a child when your parents couldn't show up how you needed them to, in the form of feeling rejected when people don't respond to you in the way you decided they should. Okay. I eventually am going to write a book about all of this stuff, because it's a lot of information, and there's so many like childhood patterns that happen, but this one is so important in being able to really receive, because ironically, the only way you're actually going to be able to receive is when you're able to fill that void of self-worth within yourself. Because until you fill that void and you feel this sense of worthiness, anything that you do receive, you're not actually going to be able to take it in. Okay? Nadia. Nadia, I'm glad you're here. Okay, so let me know if this is making sense, and let me know what questions you have about this. If you have like specific questions about this pattern in your life and you'd like me to answer it or tune into it, I'm happy to do that. But so what was the other thing I wanted to say? Oh, how do we break this? But let me know if you, oh yeah, Nadia also saw in my human design, because she just said, I'm so freaking excited about your book. She also saw in my human design that like I am supposed to write a book. So that is coming. because of the way I'm able to like download and synthesize information, it makes a lot of sense for me to write a book. So that is coming. I actually carved out time today to do a bunch of writing. So that was awesome because I've literally been like putting time in my calendar to write and then I like ignore it. But I actually did it today and I spent about an hour, 45 minutes writing. So that felt really good. Okay, so how do we break this, right? What do we do about this? So we know we're stuck in this cycle of external validation and rejection, right? So what do we do about it? And the first part is up leveling your understanding of your mission, your gifts, and your worthiness. So, really, the key to up leveling your feeling of self worth, because this can be hard to pinpoint, because you can say to yourself, like, oh, I feel worthy. I feel good about myself, right? But like a lot of times we don't know because, like many things that I help people uncover, this is something that's living in the subconscious, right? So we could say on a 3D material level, like, no, I feel great about myself. I used to be like, not, I used to be, not confident, but now I feel better about myself. So the way that you can tell the way that you can tell that you need to up level your sense of self-worth is by looking at the results that you're getting and looking at the things that you're saying yes to that actually aren't a yes for you. Those are some really good clues, right? And we all can use this, right? Because a lot of the programming we've gotten, like this pattern that I'm talking about, is programming to feel like there is something wrong with us, right? And there's actually not. There's actually nothing wrong with you. There's nothing you actually need to fix. It's just more about having the awareness so that you can come into alignment with your gifts and your worthiness, right? So I don't like this feeling of like, well, there's something wrong with me that I need to fix. Yes, we need to delve into the subconscious and see what the blocks are, what's holding us back, what happened and why. But we also don't want to get stuck there, right? Because then it can be really easy to attach to a story of, oh, well, it's because this thing happened to me is why I can't like A, B, and C. And that is just, again, keeping you stuck. But at the same time, it's also good to know. So up leveling your understanding of yourself, right? And that is an ongoing process that never stops. So continuing to work with your own energy, continuing to be extremely diligent about what emotions and feelings are coming up for you at every turn, using your triggers as information, using your triggers as opportunities for healing. And if you know me, I talk about this all the time because your relationships and your triggers are your most potent source of information. If you decide that you're not going to use them as information, then you're not going to grow. So if you're having an issue with your partner, that is information about what you need to look at. It's not about the other person, ever, usually. There are a few exceptions, but for these purposes, it's never about the other person. And you can take that one and run with it, because I will say that every single time. It's never about the other person. Okay. And the thing is, the other thing I want to mention, so first of all, let me just go back to this for a second. So getting back to up leveling your understanding of your gifts and your mission, this is really, really important. And this again is an ongoing process of discovery. But the more you kind of dive down this rabbit hole of understanding your gifts and your mission, the more you're going to naturally up level your sense of self-worth and be able to break this cycle. So it takes awareness, and it also takes a very passionate and dedicated willingness of self-discovery, right? So it's about continuously being curious about what you're being shown. So like what I was talking about with your triggers and your relationships, and not being, not feeling like there's something wrong with you if something comes up, and almost treating it as like a game or like a detective show or something, like, okay, this is coming up. Like, what does this mean? And just getting curious about it and kind of like playing detective and being like, what is this all about? What does this mean? And when you do that, you start to learn very valuable information about yourself. And then at the same time, when you can kind of clear away some of that fog, as Andrea Donnelly so eloquently put, when you can clear away some of that fog, you begin to see things much more clearly, and your gifts and your mission become quite clear to you. And when that happens, you automatically feel a sense of worthiness and purpose that wasn't previously there. Okay, so the other thing that came through that they really wanted me to mention is you will need to face yourself at every up level. So this is really important because, as you know, like every time you go to the next level, there's always going to be stuff that comes up, usually around your sense of self-worth, usually around this cycle that I'm talking about of maybe feeling rejection or seeking validation or other belief systems that you're holding on to. So every time you're seeking to expand, whatever is blocking you from that expansion will just come up, so you have the opportunity to clear it so you can move forward. Many of you know this, I say this all the time. But what they wanted me to share is you will need to face yourself at every up level of your business. So if you're just starting out, or even if you're established and want to break through an income ceiling, these types of patterns always resurface because they invite us to up level our sense of self-worth and what we're capable of. So this is just really important to understand so you know how to navigate every up level. And this kind of got downloaded to me too as a course I want to eventually teach, is how to navigate the growth process, because this doesn't have to be difficult, but every time we grow and expand, which a lot of us are doing rapidly lately, stuff comes up for clearing, right? And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just about knowing how to navigate it, getting the support that you need, and moving through it efficiently, because it's always going to happen, right? But it's just about knowing how to navigate it so you don't get stuck in it, or you don't just think, well, this is how I am and I'm only ever going to get this far because of these issues, right? And that's not the case. It's just that these issues are surfacing for you because they want to be dealt with and healed. That's all that's happening. That's all that this is. So when we know that, it can, and we have the tools and we know how to get support, it can become really easy and efficient for us to keep climbing to these higher and higher levels, which is why once you get that process down, you can quantum leap, right? That's why I've quantum leaped. That's why all my clients quantum leap, because I know how to get this process down so you don't have to get stuck, okay? So that is basically everything. I want to see if you guys have any questions. Oh wait, I want to see what some people said. Andrea said, isn't this my ultimate lesson? My gift, for those of you who don't know me, is that I can see and feel completely through every place and time. Everyone's alive's brightest, purest soul, highest good, divinity, whatever you want to call it. And then, and then I tell them who they really are. Yes, she does. And she says, and then they run for the fucking hills because they have not filled the void of self-worth from within. That is really true. That is really true. So again, getting all of the support and learning all these processes is the tools to help you continue to up-level this sense of self-worth, right? But that's really what it's all about. So, the guides are really clear with me this week about this specific cycle, because I think this is going to be really helpful for people to start to hone in your awareness on when you're kind of falling into this cycle of external validation and rejection. And like, the other thing that's really important to remember is this cycle is very much exacerbated by social media. So just be aware of that And especially if you like are an entrepreneur and you run your business online, it can be really easy to get sucked into like the social media, like, oh, let me see like who's responding to me or how many likes I have and all of that stuff. And it can be really easy to get sucked into that as being a way that you look for validation, but ultimately realizing like you never actually get that feeling that you want to get. That's something that's cultivated from within, that it takes these tools that I'm talking about. So I just wanted to mention that because I think that's really important. And I also think it's important to like monitor and put boundaries around your time on social media. I know that it can be hard. Like for me, I basically run my business on social media, so it can be difficult, but at the same time, it's a very easy way to get caught up in this cycle. So just being aware of that and being aware of the time you're spending and how that's affecting your energy. And being aware of how everything affects your energy, because that's super, super important. Oh, Jennifer says this topic is exactly what has come up for me these past few weeks. Awesome. Yeah, I knew this was going to be something that resonated for people because it's super important. And it's something that I know pretty much affects everybody. So, okay, so any other questions before I wrap up? I still have a couple spots open for Akashic business consultations. These are pretty like profound, life-changing readings, because when I go into the records around your business, I'm able to really see what your business is wanting to expand into. And I'm also able to see what energetic and money blocks you have, and we can clear them, and then we can calibrate your business to the highest possible frequency. So if that's something that is resonating for you, then just reach out to me and I'll send you the link to book that. So that is about it. Oh, Emily says, hold on, I feel this so much. In the past few weeks, I've been finding myself back into these patterns of wanting, needing validation from boyfriend and clients, and I'm wanting to stop the cycle. Catching myself as it's happening in the moment, yes, is a great first step. It is. And then, because this is something that everybody struggles with at certain points. So it's so important to A, have the awareness, but then B, it's really about being diligent about using the tools and doing the work necessary, and being willing. It's about willingness and diligence are two of the words that keep coming up around this. Roxy, we are also in sync. Myself and a few other energy workers are talking about the same topics, and it's all aligned. Just a confirmation we are getting the messages the collective needs to hear and work through right now. Awesome. Yeah, totally true. Lots of love. Oh, and Nadia said these readings are excellent. Highly recommend. Yes, Nadia and I had a really powerful Akashic business reading too. And definitely check out Nadia if you guys want a human design reading, because that really, really blew my mind. And it's just crazy how everything that I do and am able to do as a human, and like part of like my purpose and all of these things that I like, all of my gifts are literally in my human design. It's so crazy. I highly recommend everyone doing it. I'm a 1-3 manifesting generator, by the way, in case anybody was interested. But it's so much more than that. That's like, it's like saying, like I'm a Scorpio, right? Like there's so much more to your astrology chart. It's the same with human design. Okay, reach out to me if you guys have any other questions. Next week I'm gonna do my video on Thursday, because next week I'm gonna be back up at the cabin. Super excited about that. And on Friday at this time I'll probably be driving home. So I'm gonna do my video on Thursday, and I'll announce that in the group. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you have an amazing weekend. And reach out to me if you have questions, or if you want to grab one of those spaces for an Akashic business consultation. All right. Bye.